Panthéon de la Guerre. The Panthéon de la Guerre was a monumental artwork painted in Paris during the First World War, a circular panorama 402 feet 123 m in circumference and 45 feet 14 m high. It has been described as the largest painting in the world. Description: the painting included full-length portraits of around 6,000 wartime figures from France and its allies. The centerpiece was a temple to glory, with portraits of French figures crowding on a staircase of heroes, topped by a gold statue of Victory holding aloft a crown of laurels in each hand, on a plinth bearing the motto Aux heroes to the heroes. At the base of the staircase, French political and military leaders stood around a 75 cannon. On the opposite side of the circular painting was a depiction of a war memorial, with 4 bronze poilus holding a coffin covered with the French flag on a plinth inscribed Pro Patria, and a single woman dressed in black weeping beside a wreath bearing the words Aux heroes ignores to the forgotten heroes. National groups of figures from the allied nations lined the painting to either side. 4 European allies, the United Kingdom, Belgium, Italy, Portugal on one side, and 19 others, including the US, Greece, Latin America, Serbia, Montenegro, Tsarist Russia, Romania, and Japan on the other. The figures were mostly men, but also some female nurses, nuns, and spies, such as Edith Cavell, Louise de Bettigny, and Emilien Morel. The work also depicted some French cuirassiers, Gaumiers troops from Morocco, and veterans peppers, and included a continuous topographical landscape depicting the battlefields of France and Belgium from the North Sea to Switzerland. A section comprising representatives from Asian nations, including men of Britain's Chinese labor corps employed behind the Western Front, was greatly reduced to make way for by American figures when the U.S. entered the war. While Czechoslovakia did not exist before World War I, during the war the Czechoslovak Legion recruited men to fight with the Allies on 3 fronts: France, Italy, and Russia. The Czechoslovak Legion in Russia was composed mostly of POW from the Austro-Hungarian army. On the far right of the main panel of the painting, the last flag shown is of the Czechoslovak Legion. The Legion's flag generally consisted of a white bar over a red bar with coats of arms of Bohemia, Moravia, Silesia, and Slovakia in the corners, and a crown with garlands in the center or the initials CS intertwined, as seen here in the detail from the painting and photo of the Legion in France posing with their flag. This stylized CS symbol was used extensively throughout Czechoslovakia during the First Republic 1918–1939. History in Paris. Work on the painting began in September 1914, after the Battle of the Marne, coordinated by French artists Pierre Carrier-Belleuse and Auguste Francois-Marie Gorget, with contributions from around 130 artists. The work was undertaken as a private commercial venture, with state support. The completed painting was displayed in Paris in a specially built building next to the Hôtel des Invalides and inaugurated by the French President Raymond Poincaré in October 1918. Visitors approached along dark corridors to a central viewing platform. It was visited by 3 million people between 1918 and 1927. Display in U.S. The painting was acquired by U.S. businessmen in 1927 and exported to New York, where it was displayed at Madison Square Garden. It was seen there by 1 million visitors in 8 weeks. Some small changes were made to make the work more attractive to a U.S. audience. Colonel Edward M. House, by then a politician, was painted out and replaced by the U.S. ambassador to France, Myron T. Herrick. An African-American soldier was also added. The work went on a tour of the United States, displayed at the Washington Bicentennial Fair in Washington, D.C. in 1932, at the Century of Progress exhibition in Chicago in 1933–34, at the Great Lakes Exposition at Cleveland, Ohio in 1936–37, and the Golden Gate International Exposition. It went into storage in 1940. And was acquired by restaurant entrepreneur William Hausner for $3,400. Liberty Memorial. Kansas City, Missouri, 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 Missouri. Hausner donated the work to Leroy Daniel MacMaurice in 1956 to be adapted for display at Memory Hall in the Liberty Memorial in Kansas City, Missouri. MacMaurice greatly reduced the size of the work and modified it to emphasize the U.S. contribution to the First World War. Only 7% of the original work was retained, and large French sections were left out. The reconfigured work has been described as a Reader's Digest version in a Cold War U.S. nationalist context. MacMaurice also modified some unrecognizable figures in the U.S. delegations to represent later U.S. figures, such as Presidents Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Harry S. Truman, a First World War veteran and Missouri native. Colonel House was added back, and MacMaurice also added portraits of Carrier Bellews and Gorgat. The bouquet of flowers previously painted in at the feet of Edith Cable was placed in front of Woodrow Wilson. The lone surviving Chinese laborer was also painted out. Other fragments of the original painting have survived. Two 10x 16 feet 3.0 x 4.9 m fragments were displayed in Hausner's restaurant in Baltimore until 1999 and were then sold. The building that housed the work in Paris was destroyed in 1960.